Hey, this is Kevin, handler of all things Pollo, Lions Road, any road. They all lead to Lions Road. And you're listening to the EFED podcast.
Welcome to the EFED podcast, the podcast exploring our fantasy wrestling hobby, where the wrestling is written, but the characters are real.
Hey everybody, welcome into the EFED podcast. I'm your host, Mikey Unlikely, and this is episode 91. 91! We're back, as always. It's Mikey with my co-host and producer, Brian.
What's going on? How are you, sir?
Doing great. Having a few beers this evening. Excited to talk to you guys here, both on twitch.tv/EFED podcast, as well as everywhere you get your podcasts.
Go away, dog.
Welcome to the live show. I'm Mikey. This is Brian. And today we've got an interview with Kev. Kev is the man behind a bunch of feds. He's like, we were talking before the show, and he tells me, I'm not really a role player. I'm a Fed head. So I'm excited to talk to him, go through some different stuff than we normally go through. He's behind characters like Teddy Davis, Super Polo. He's been the Fed head of Honor Wrestling League, Rainbow Pro, Polo Mania, Lions Road, and I believe there's a project in the works. We'll talk about that and more. We'll see what's going on. We got Kev on the show. Brian, I'm excited to talk to him and get to his stuff here today.
This would be like just a whole Fed head roundtable.
That's right. Yeah, we got 3 Fed heads on the call, same time. I think we're going to get into some bickering, maybe. And a couple of Angle Fed heads, too.
Oh, there you go.
All right. So welcome to episode 91. Look, we're going to get into the interview soon, but first we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Of course, we've got Occupy Pro Wrestling. Shout out to Alex out there. It's a great wrestling community. If you're into what's actually going on in pro wrestling and keeping up with it, they do great stuff like reaction videos, prediction videos. They've got a whole Discord community full of wrestling fans, and they've got all kinds of projects going on over at Occupy Pro Wrestling.
.com. Put in the smart. Back in the smart.
Back in smart.
Put in the mark in smart.
Smart. Yes, that's true. All right. We'll also give a shout out to EWTs, creators of fine e-wrestling merchandise, both big and small. Hoodies, t-shirts, hats, stickers, whatever you need, EWTs is your source. Custom stuff for everybody. Isn't that right, Brian?
That is incredibly right. EWTs.com.
.com. All right, here's a word from the rest of our sponsors.
The EFED podcast is a totally free podcast that drops each and every single week for your e-wrestling ears on a multitude of apps. If you'd like to support the show, however, the best way to do so is over at patreon.com/EFED podcast. For as little as $3 a month, you can support both Brian and myself as we crank out more e-wrestling content with perks such as early releases and special Discord designations. And if that's not enough EW action for you, jump up to the $10 a month tier and you can get a free EWT's t-shirt design, early and ad-free editions of the show, as well as access to our monthly Q&As, bad graps, and more. And if you'd like to be a sponsor on the show and get your ad played, the best way to do that is the sponsor level on Patreon with all of the previous perks plus weekly commercials on the show. Check it out over at patreon.com/EFED podcast. We greatly appreciate your consideration.
Occupy Pro Wrestling, putting the smart back into smart mark since 2012 with a community on Discord and message boards, merchandise, a weekly vodcast on Twitch, and much more. Check out everything from us and our site partners at OccupyProWrestling.com.
EFED Tees, the #1 source for EFED merchandise, offering custom merchandise made for your wrestler, tag team, stable, or EFED. Whether you want a high-quality t-shirt, face mask, hoodie, hat, it doesn't matter. We can help you out over at EFEDtees.com. Do you have a custom logo for your wrestler?
For
Awesome.
over a
We're gonna slap
decade,
it on a shirt and
Defiance
help you out
Wrestling
real
has
fast.
redefined
If
what
not,
an E-Fed
no
can
problem
be.
at all. We have a
An angle
custom
fed with a
design
rich
service
history
too.
and a
You can
colorful
work with a
cast of
graphic
characters.
artist to get the
Defiance
perfect
Wrestling
design
offers a
made for your
drama-free
character.
environment
Go
with
on
some of the
over
most
to
experienced and
EWTs.com,
talented
click
writers
on
in the
Want a
history of the
Shirt
game,
to get your
with a
shirt
level
started.
of consistency that few other promotions can offer. With on-time events, micro offerings, and even a long-form in-character radio show, as well as a forum home on the classic fwrestling.com, nobody, I said it, nobody does fantasy wrestling quite like Defiance. Come, see what all the buzz is about. Come check out DefianceWrestling.com. You heard me. It's DefianceWrestling.com. I'll see you there.
All right, we're back. And today we're interviewing Kevin. Kevin is the handler behind Teddy Davis, Super Polo, the Fed head behind Honor Wrestling League, Rainbow Pro, Polo Mania, Lions Road, and more. We're going to be talking to Kev here today, and this is going to be a little bit different because we got Brian on the call as well.
Right.
Kev, welcome to the call. Welcome to the Twitch stream. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Excited to have you on. I want to thank Kev. We were able to schedule on short notice, which is always awesome. So, Kev, let's get into it, man. When did you start watching wrestling? When did you become a fan?
It's cliche, but all my life. Like some of my earliest memories are wrestling.
Yeah.
I was born in '90, so
Okay.
one of my first memories is crying because Yokozuna beat Hulk Hogan at King of the Ring 1993. And yeah, there's just a lot of very early stuff. Grew up a WCW fan
Really?
because of my dad.
Okay.
So
Well, and because Yokozuna was on the other channel, Crushing Dreams.
well, yeah, well that too. But just here in Canada, I think WCW was more accessible because we had TBS. We didn't have the USA Network,
Oh,
obviously.
okay.
But I just never knew when WWF was on. So keeping up the current product was a lot easier because you had Saturday night on TBS. And yeah, it was just easier to follow.
So the Superstation was where you were getting all of your wrestling back in the day.
Yeah, we don't have TNT. We just have TBS. So
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. TBS.
Yeah, it was just easier to follow WCW, but we'd go to the like Hollywood Video, Blockbuster, rent the old tapes, so caught up with a lot of the 80s stuff. And it was
Yeah.
cool to see.
You didn't have the USA Network, but you had Hollywood Video.
I don't know either, okay?
How did that work? Yeah.
That's a great spot.
Yep.
It was a good store. Had lots of tapes.
Lots.
I remember renting all those WrestleManias and SummerSlams and everything myself. Yeah, I was a Hulkamaniac in 1997. Like,
Well,
Thanks
funny
to-
story.
thank you, video stores. Yeah.
Funny story now that you mentioned it. So he turned heel in 96, and I was 6 years old. He cuts a promo saying, you guys turned your back on me or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't do that. I'll support you too. I don't care.
I'm still with you, Hulk. Come on.
Took it personal.
I love it. All right. So, a little Hulkamaniac. No, you're watching WCW. So, who are some of your favorite wrestlers right off the rip when you started watching?
Sting.
Sting.
Sting was the big one. Battles with Vader in 93, 94,
Yeah.
and then obviously Hogan came in 94. So watching it back now, it wasn't very good, 94, 95. But, as a kid, you don't care. But
that's like right before they hit their stride. So, that if you're
Yeah.
coming into it, you're about to see a huge, ramp up.
and like I said, I was watching the tapes from Hollywood Video, Blockbuster. So Savage came in, big fan of him.
Yep.
And so Hogan, Savage, those were the main guys. Sting.
And what about as you progress through your wrestling fandom?
the late 90s? It was the Hardys, strangely enough, because I got out of it for a bit, and then we had TSN would show Raw randomly in the afternoon after school. So you come home and happen to catch a ladder match between them and Edge and Christian, and that blew me away because you didn't see nothing like that back then. And so yeah, the Hardys for a while.
Yeah, it's hard not to, when that happened on the mainstream, no one had seen ladder matches outside Shawn and Razor, right? And that was
And-
the biggest thing they ever seen was Sean jump off the splash, and now they're doing spears, and now they're doing swantons, and now they're doing all through tables, and it's just a huge escalation for what was going on.
And I had no exposure to ECW except through the magazines, so I didn't see what was going on over there. So this was blowing me away.
Well, what about now? Are you still watching wrestling?
I watch. I don't keep up with it as much, but I try to watch AEW every week. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I like most of it. I'm repping FTR tonight, so obviously I'm liking them, and they had a good week, a very good week.
Did they come out victorious WrestleMania weekend?
Briscoes, they beat the Briscoes. They beat the Bucks on Dynamite, so 2 for 2.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, I guess so. I was looking forward to that Ring of Honor match, but I have yet to see the pay-per-view.
It was tremendous.
I've got to go back and watch. So, FTR, great tag team. I love tag team wrestling myself. You're watching AEW, but let's go back to way back, probably, I don't know, early thousands for you. When did you get into e-wrestling?
2003.
2003. Okay.
I can almost name the day because I was watching Raw the end of December 2003. And I happened to get on the internet after watching it, and GameFAQs.com
Yes.
had a wrestling section, but underneath it had an eFed section, and it said wrestling meets role playing. And obviously I know what both of those are, but how did they combine?
Yeah.
So I got to exploring, and I signed up for a Fed, and I cut an awful promo. And I don't think I ever went back to that Fed, but that's how it goes.
Did you win?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I cut the promo and I dipped.
You assumed, and then you
I was
just
just like, this is awful.
Yeah. You're too embarrassed to go back, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I may hold a winning record.
1-0, undefeated. So you find this first Fed, you jump in, you role play. Are you creating your own wrestler right off the bat, or are you a real wrestler?
I think I did. I don't remember what I created. It couldn't have been very good, but
Sure.
but I did dabble in some like real simulation Feds and stuff, like for video games, and then branched out into the created wrestler Feds again.
Okay. And so you're role playing, I assume.
Yeah.
And so when you find these eFeds, first of all, how did you find the eFed? Like, I mean, you said Game FAQs. I'm sorry. So you find them on Game FAQs. How do you find other eFeds outside of that? Because obviously there's just what's in there.
Well, you'd go through the message threads and you'd see sites like Rough Cut or XNet.
Okay.
XNet was later, but Rough Cut was the main one. So you go through Rough Cut and look, and you see all kinds of Feds. Like there's match writing Feds, there's angle Feds, there's video game Feds, there's role playing Feds. So, and then you click on one Fed and they have affiliates. So you going through their Feds and just clicking on any name that seems interesting.
And so what's the first character you remember putting together?
Joey Crow. It was a terrible name. But he was like Cactus Jack. And that's what I was into at that period, I guess. And that's par for the course for 2003. It was just hardcore wrestling. So
yeah, no, that's about right. That's when
special.
That's
every Fed was extreme.
That's when the big ultra-violent Feds came out. Yeah,
a lot of X's and Z's all across the internet.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Okay, so you're creating this character, and are you sticking in one Fed, or are you jumping around at this time?
I jumped around to a few different ones. Like I wasn't any good, so you used to stay for a match, you lose, and like, okay,
I'm out of here.
That didn't work. It wasn't an ego thing. It was like, well, I didn't win. Like, what do I do now? And so I finally signed up for this one Fed because they wouldn't let you in unless you logged in or signed up. So I looked around. I didn't really like it, but then the Fed had added me to MSN Messenger, so I was like, oh shit. So he's talking to me, and he convinced me to stay or whatever. And so I stayed in that Fed for a bit, and mild success, but so you're getting your feet wet.
And so when are you like winning championships for the first time? Is it that Fed, or is it a little bit later?
It was a little bit later.
Yeah.
It was still, like I said, getting my feet wet. I still had a losing record.
Yeah, right. And so, are you still running with Crow, or are you creating new characters at this point?
I think at this point I'd created Teddy Davis.
Okay, so Teddy Davis, tell us about the character.
Somebody described him as like Bret Hart 1997.
Brian's gonna hate him.
but in the sense of like family values and kind of the thing. And
he's a heel.
Well, he started as a face, I think.
Okay.
And he was just like an old school face, and trying to do the right thing by his family. And
well, I guess if you're in Canada, he was a baby face, but in America, he was the big heel. So I guess that's the different perspective.
Yeah, he wasn't playing up the American Canadian dynamic, but he was just trying to succeed to support his family.
Yeah,
which come to find out 20 years later, it makes a little sense. But
no doubt about that. So when do you first decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a plunge into Fed heading instead of being a handler?
The Fed I joined, where the admin added me, was Vortex Wrestling Federation. I think that's what it was called. I don't quote me, but he offered me a show because he's like, there's a million Feds out there. Why do you want to create your own? He's like, do a show and be the GM. I was like, okay, well, that seems fair. But the problem is this Fed had like 10 members and he wants to do a second show.
Good luck. Yeah. Now you got 5 people to break up.
He says, don't double book people with our show, and don't double book people that are in this Fed too, because we were in another Fed, Chaotic Pro Wrestling, which I had some mild success in eventually.
Okay.
But so I'm like, well, how do I book a card with 3 people?
Yeah, right. It's one triple threat match. That's all I get.
It's like, do I do a round robin? Do I do a triple threat? What are my options here?
Battle Royal and a triple threat.
Basically.
Yeah. No, that's kind of a crappy position to be in, but I understand, hey, it's nice that the first time you get to try staffing, so to speak, you don't jump right into Fed heading. You get to be behind the scenes.
You have somebody kind of telling you, hey, that match sucked. Instead of just a bunch of members not signing up for your Fed.
Yeah, right.
You get some criticism back from somebody above you.
It's nice to get feedback, but sometimes not so much criticism.
But it was good in that sense. Like he said, your match writing needs a bit of work. And like, oh yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
It was good.
Mine still does.
Mine too. Don't worry. But it was good. But eventually, trying to book 3 people every week got old. And he's like, well, this isn't working. Like, do you think? And I was like, he's like, well, what do you want to do? And it's like, I'm going to go start my own Fed. So that's what I did. And that's how the Honor Wrestling League came about. That was about 2004.
Which mission statement was obviously more than 3 wrestlers.
Yeah, I just do it my way. More than 3 wrestlers, and
now you don't have to worry about the rules and structure put over you, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I could do what I wanted, even though if I had no clue what I wanted to do, I was just start a Fed. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about booking. I didn't know anything about max structure. But sometimes the Wild West approach is, you miss that. Yeah. You miss that a bit now, and it's like, I remember when I didn't know shit about booking. You just make a cage match because why not?
Why not? A great main event will be a cage match, right?
Sure.
So when you create the Honor Wrestling League, what format are you using? Like, what kind? Are you building a website? Are you putting it on, GameFAQs?
I just made a forum. I may have made like a Easy Free Webs website, but I just had basic HTML knowledge, so there's nothing fancy if I did.
Right.
But I just had a Pro Words forum, and that was it. I don't even think I had a logo.
HWL, right?
Yep.
Perfect. So you start this Fed, and what are your early experiences as a Fed head like? Well, what are some of the struggles you hit right away? Recruiting?
No, not really, because I'd been into these Feds, and like I added anybody that had MSN Messenger or AIM. So you branched out and made some connections. and like, hey, I'm starting a Fed. You want to come join? Like, come join for a match, whatever. And so I don't remember the initial struggle being too bad to get members. And then, somehow or another, it kept chugging along. Like, I was writing matches. They weren't good, so I don't know how I was attracting people, but
They just scrolled down to see if they won, and then yes, I'm staying here.
yeah, basically. They didn't have to scroll far because it was like a paragraph. But
Wait, wasn't that in kind of a hot era for e-fetting?
late 2004,
I would say, yeah, I'd say it was fairly hot at that time.
like the GameFAQs section was pretty popping. There's quite a few feds in there.
Yeah, it seemed like up until, I mean, as wrestling goes, e-fetting goes, right?
Yeah.
You see huge lulls and you see huge spikes when wrestling's hot or when it's cold.
And so, like, that's right after WrestleMania 20. So, yeah, it's still pretty popular, I think. Nobody I was friends with liked wrestling, but
Right, yeah. All my wrestling friends are on the internet.
well, everybody liked the Attitude Era. And then once that was gone, they was like, I don't like wrestling. And you try to talk about something, like, I don't like it. That's stupid. It's fake. Shut up.
You liked it just 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're running Honor Wrestling League, and how long does that last?
That lasted from August 2004 to December 2005. I shut it down.
Wow. Okay. First Fed. Oh, well over a year. That's a pretty good run.
I don't know if it was my first Fed, but it was the first Fed that really took off.
First one that counted.
I may have put one out that lasted a week or two, but I don't remember.
Sure. So Honor Wrestling League opens and closes. Who are some of the highlights? Who's some of the characters you remember really liking?
We had
Or
the Ravaged. The Ravaged was Ridley from Alpha Championship Wrestling. He came over, and he was a really cool guy. And he just wanted to test out a different version of his character, I guess. And for whatever reason, he liked my Fed. So I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, bring it over. And I don't know if it was a combination just, getting along with them, but his character really stuck out. We had X Dragon, who wrote novels, but
that was also that era, right?
that was that era. Kiwi Kaiser was another good one. Still talk to him to this day. He's cool.
Is he still e-fetting?
Up until a few years ago, I think.
Yeah.
He posted something on Facebook randomly, and it showed up in the home feed of an RP, and I was like, it's weird, but but good on you. It's getting put on the spot now.
No, I mean, if you can name three wrestlers off the top of your head that were in your first major Fed, that's pretty damn good.
And
from back in
Jake
2004.
DeMarte was, I think, one of the first guys that signed up. He stuck around the whole run. So that was cool. Somebody liked my work enough from beginning to end.
There you go. Yeah. Again, major accomplishments for our first Fed.
I think he was the first champion even. So maybe that had something to do with it.
He knew you like putting him over.
There you go.
So Honor Wrestling League closes. Do you go immediately into a new Fed, or you take a break, or what happens next?
I jumped right into another Fed because I was getting like more into Japanese pro wrestling.
Okay.
As I was getting, and Honor Wrestling League was my freshman year of high school. So as I went into my sophomore year, my priorities were changing. I tried to make it bi-weekly, and I just didn't like it that way. And I wanted to add some different stuff to the Fed, and just didn't take, or I felt it didn't take. So I was like, well, let's close this down. Let's try something else. And so I went back to a weekly format, a little scaled down with some Japanese wrestling influences. And that one lasted for a year and a half. So I got a lot of the guys from the first Fed to come over. Not everybody, but...
Was it almost a continuation of where they had the same characters, or people switching it up because of the Japanese influence? Yeah.
People switched, yeah.
So is this Rainbow Pro?
No, that was Pro Wrestling Spirit, which became the original Lions Road. There was 2 Lions Roads, so this might get a little confusing.
See, people are gonna say I was in Lions Road. Well, not that one. So tell us about how it starts with one way and then ends up as the Lions Road.
It was just I don't know. We ran for like 6 months and it kind of stalled out a little bit, and so I was like, well, let's give it a fresh coat of paint.
Rebranding.
I was looking for event names, and I came across New Japan Pro Wrestling had a Young Lions brand called Lions Road. I was like, that's a great name. I'll just steal that, and there you go. That's how we got it.
There you go. Perfect. Easy. Yeah.
Well, quick shout out to the chat. Jimmy James 59 says he was in both of your Lions Roads.
Yeah,
There
that's
you
Julian
go.
Cutlass. He was big champion in both of them, actually.
Jimmy James, thanks for checking out the broadcast. It's awesome. I love when we get people who know the guest in here. Lexi, thanks for joining us as well. As always, appreciate you. Good deal. So we've got the first run in Lions Road. What was it about Lions Road that made you come back to it later?
Nothing really. It was just
Just a cool name.
yeah. There wasn't really much connection between them.
Okay.
Like Cutlass was in Jimmy James or Cutlass, he was in both of them, but he found the Fed later because it was named Lions Road. So that was
Right.
cool. We got back in touch that way.
He saw another one. It's like, oh, I used to be in a Fed. Wait a minute, that's the same Fed head.
Well, yeah, and Tadpole Road just wouldn't have the same gravitas.
Exactly. Frog Pond or nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Amazing. All right, so first run of Lions Road. You said mostly the same handlers. Why does it shut down, and why do you? Where do you go from there?
So we put a tournament together in Lions Road in
Okay.
late 06. We were trying to crown a number 1 contender for the top title. And for whatever reason, the champion ended up bowing out. So this tournament became for the title.
World title tournament. Yeah.
And I had a character in it just to fill up space. And this tournament went off the fucking rails. Like,
So you had to keep putting your own guy over.
no, well, is essentially yes, but like there was like 5 no-shows. The 3 people that did show up kind of half-assed it. And then there was my RP that I did earlier in the week. And the judge goes, you did the best RP. Do you really want to put the belt on yourself? I'm like, well, no, but I'm not going to reward somebody for half-assing either. Like, what do I do here? And so I thought, no harm, no foul. I'll put the belt on myself for a month and then drop it to the next guy.
Okay.
Of course, this ruffles some feathers with some people because a fed head, would I do it the same way this time?
No.
I don't know. But at the time, it's like innocent, good intentions. And,
This time you keep it for 6 years.
exactly. Bruno
Yeah, right.
Sammartino.
Big change up this time. No. Shout out to Brian over here. He's a Fed head for Defiance Wrestling, and we tried to put the belt on him 100 times. He refuses.
Good
Wow.
man. Not worth the
Refuses.
hassle.
Loser leaves town, lost. I'm out.
All right. So Lions Road's done. What happens next?
I think I took some time off because that was
Okay.
I was going into my senior year of high school by the time Lions Road was finished.
Busy time.
And yeah, and I had like a semester from hell. I got my first job. I had my first girlfriend. It was just going, oh my god. And
Forget wrestling, right?
yeah, forget that. And then a buddy of mine messaged me. He's like, I kind of want to start a Fed, but do you have any like ideas, this or that? And I said, well, I'd like to get back into it myself, but I don't have the real time to dedicate to this. So he's like, well, let's do one together. We can make it bi-weekly and we'll alternate weeks.
Well,
Best laid plans always go off the rails.
that sounds like a great idea on paper.
In theory, yes.
Yeah.
So we started Rainbow Pro.
Okay.
And Rainbow Pro was kind of like Chikara Pro, I suppose, in a sense. Kind of lighthearted, some goofy gimmicks. The Rainbow Pro name kind of gives it away.
This well laid plan, you said it doesn't work out so well.
Well, you have two Fed heads, and you're gonna have different ideas, directions, and
Right.
his idea was more over the top comedy. Mine was like, subtle humor, just kind of a general wrestling Fed, but kind of quirky.
Yeah.
And it was no big fight or anything. It was just like, well, I have a different idea for this. And he's like, I don't really have the time I thought I did. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it.
Natural transition, right?
Yeah, I guess I'll do it. And that Fed is important because that's where I met El Hijo de Pollo, who is Matt. And he's the creator of the whole chicken saga with Pollo gimmick. And he won a big battle royal to become the first champion. And I'd known Matt for a year or two just through Feds, but I never really got to know him. So
Okay.
in the top champion, you get to submitting ideas and chatting, going back and forth. And we became pretty good friends. So the Fed lasted maybe another 3 months, and we had some interesting characters. We had El Hijo de Pollo. We had Jumaga, not Umaga, but Jumaga, a fat Jewish
Umaga.
kid.
Oh no.
Not touching that one.
Apparently, he was actually Jewish, so it was cool, I guess. But it was fun.
It's a Barry Horowitz situation.
Yes, I guess if they can poke fun at themselves, that's all that
Yes.
matters.
Pat yourself on the back. Very
Exactly. And he was a pretty dominant figure in the Fed too. I think he ended up dethroning Pollo.
good. Okay.
But yeah, and then the Fed would close.
See, coming into this interview, I had one very important question for you, but you've already kind of answered / ruined it. So what that was going to be is where does the chicken stuff come from? And
that came from Matt.
and
is the
yeah,
name
it
for
came-
all of that.
it came from Matt, so that's where it comes from.
I guess the original idea he had was, my Spanish is going to be horrible because I'm Canadian. But the character he originally applied with was Jack and La Caja or something, and he changed it to El Hijo de Pollo, thankfully, because that's much easier to say. It just flows better too.
Yeah.
And this character was just off the rails, but they had this little restaurant food truck thing called Pollo Bucket and so they brought like a giant novelty chicken leg to the ring and whacked people. They hit people with a bucket of chicken, and it was just
Beautiful.
great shit. And yeah, it was a lot of fun writing that stuff.
And you said it was memorable because you met Matt. So who is Matt to you? And you guys have obviously built a pretty good friendship.
Yeah, Matt's. I still talk to Matt to this day. I told him about this interview. He might be in the chat. I don't know, but he's been a pretty good buddy for the last. That was 07. So this is. I was going to say 21. This is 22. There's 15 years, at least 15 years. So, Matt's the kind of guy you text like 2 a.m. with a random idea, and he shoots something right back at you, and you just flow with it. And he's that kind of dude, and he's great. So then a couple years later, after many Feds or whatever, he says, "I want to join a Fed, but I want to do a trios of Pollos," because he had another guy anyway. But he's like, "I want you to be a Pollo." Okay, I don't know, like I can't do comedy like you do, but so this is where Super Pollo comes in.
Okay.
And I'm not going to pretend I was like half as good as them two at it, but it was just trying to write something that you might perceive as funny. We wound up winning the tag titles in this Fed. The Fed show was on Fox, so we were just trolling. We had Cox on Fox and just stupid shit like that. And
Yeah.
That's still funny.
Yeah, it's still good. Run it today. Run it back. All right. No, I'm a Fed head myself. I am all about comedy. It is my niche. It is my favorite. It's what I've been as a role player, as a Fed head. I've always aimed at comedy. So when you talk about that, you talk about becoming champions just trying to be funny. It is extremely hard to both be the funny guy in the Fed and champion at the same time.
I tried to play like maybe the straight character for the two because they were way funnier than me, and I'm like, I'm not going to compete with this.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to be there.
Third rate. So I could never really find the voice with the character. So we only lasted about 6 months before we got kicked out of the Fed for just running amok and being trolls, and it was terrible. I would have kicked myself out too. But
so what happens next?
What happens next is I took like a 4-year break. That was 2011. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I didn't have like no big retirement or anything. I'm just like, I don't really want to do anything, and nobody else is doing it right now. So I got different hobbies and whatever, and took some time off.
And what did you do in your time off?
Mostly watch hockey. Work and watch hockey.
Yeah.
Full-time jobs and, whatever else you have time for.
Just adapting to the adult life.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, I
And
totally
then,
get that.
come like 2015, I had a job with a night shift. And come midnight, nothing was happening. So here I am texting Matt stupid ideas. And I'm like, maybe I should do a Fed because I have all this time. I have no social life because I'm working night shifts. And it might not be a bad idea. And he's like, yeah, go for it. I was like, well, what do we do? And we came up with this idea that the Poyos struck it big with Poyo Bucket. And so now they're going to start a pro wrestling promotion.
Okay.
And it's going to be like carnival meets pro wrestling meets this and that. It's just absurd.
A return to form for pro wrestling.
Yes.
We had them an idea of them coming to the ring on ostriches and just goofy shit like that.
Perfect for e-wrestling.
Terrible for Peter.
I guess it's hard to write comedy. Like I am impressed by everybody that writes funny shit because I can't be like over the top funny. I feel like I'm forcing it.
It's terrible for ostriches everywhere. So you open this new Fed. I assume this is Polo Mania?
This is Pollo Mania. Because
Mania.
I was trying to think of the name. Is it
My
Pollo or
Spanish
Polo?
my Spanish is also awful. Ryan, how's your Spanish?
If it's Chicken Mania, it's definitely Pollo.
There you go.
Not Polo Mania would be either you're really into
Wearing a lot of polos.
polo shirts, Ralph Lauren, or you like that game on horses, swinging mallets.
So
Sign me up for both.
We were trying to come up with a name, and it's like, what do you call this absurd Fed? And we were coming up with normal names. I don't remember any of the suggestions, but I just thought one day, Pollo Mania. It's like, that's perfect. It works. It's got wrestling built into it from Hogan, and go for it. So we launched it, and obviously it catches people's eyes because what the hell is Chicken Mania?
Right? Yeah.
Because it wasn't Pollo Mania Wrestling, it was Pollo Mania. And they're like, what is this? And
Sorry, my dogs.
it's all good. I approached it with the idea that this was my last Fed. And as we sit here today, this obviously
It's not your last.
turned into another monster. So I'm like, I'm just going to do whatever crazy idea comes to my head. And so Matt is not a Fed head. Like, he doesn't have the time to do the Fed head duties and match rate. So he's like, well, give me a story to work with and I'll run something. So we came up with the Parts Unknown title
Nice.
And I believe Hijo de Pollo had a big bout with dysentery and like hallucinated and wandered off into the woods. And this is how he got to parts unknown. And he claims to have defeated like DB Cooper, Sasquatch, whatever stupid thing you
Anything.
think of
Yeah. Loch
to
Ness.
win this title. Yes, Loch Ness Monster, and defend this title. And now he's back and he has this title. Like, what does this mean for this dimension or whatever?
In the chat, Jimmy Jam says Polo Mania should totally be the top water polo event. So good shout. All right, go ahead, buddy.
So this, I believe we kind of teased it on the first show. We had a scramble. If you remember the championship scramble WWE did,
Yeah.
they used to have like a hardcore variation of it in the Attitude Era, or I guess before the 24/7. I don't know. It used to be in the SmackDown games, but it was like a 10-minute time limit, and whoever had the belt at the end was the champion.
Right.
So we had a scramble title, and the scramble match was just like 8 people.
Every week, or like every time they defended, it was a scramble match.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you just had lots of crazy shit going on. I think a bicycle won it at one point. It's just
Did anybody ever retain with 7 opponents?
That's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Each time you defend your title, you got 7 different opponents. I think the chances are slim.
Usually it was structured so like if you RP'd, you at least got a reign with it. Within the match. If you didn't, screw you.
Yeah.
But whoever had the best, well, you had to pin the champion. So
I got you. Okay.
It sounds like a scramble title was a real missed opportunity for the Egg Bandits. Where were they during all this?
On the nose,
but
Brian.
Whoever RP'd the best for these scramble, I don't know how the hell you did that. That's the feat in itself. But they retained the title and held it till the next scramble match.
Yep.
But I think in one of these scramble matches, somebody opened a door and there was a Bigfoot. And so we started teasing this idea. And then El Hijo de Pollo was abducted randomly in the middle of a show by Bigfoots. And Matt wrote this great RP where he is held hostage in court and in parts unknown for not giving back their title. And so
Sasquatch came to get him, take him back.
Yes. And so to avoid trial, or to avoid criminal offenses or whatever, he had to take 2 members from parts unknown and compete in the Pollo Mania Trios tournament. So I think he took Chupacabra and like
Obviously.
4'2" or
Light heavyweight.
and I don't remember the other character, but that was the blow off to that.
I'm usually not here for these. Did you say Bigfoots? Like multiple Bigfoots?
Yes. One Bigfoot wasn't enough to capture this man. They needed to bring the whole crew.
I've heard of Dog the Bounty Hunter, but not Sasquatch the Bounty Hunter.
They're serious about their parts unknown title.
I guess. Yeah. I've heard the Green Bastard is from there as well. I'm glad everyone on the call got that because I would have felt really bad otherwise. All right. Back to the interview. Polo Mania. It's running wild. We got all kinds of scramble championships. We've got Sasquatches. We've got Chupacabras. We've got everything going on. Sounds like my kind of fed, to be honest. We got big feats, multiples. Is it big foots or big feets, or is it like moose? I don't know.
Meese?
Meese?
I think we call it a tribe of Bigfoot. A Bigfoot tribe. I don't know. That's a good question.
A gang of feet. All right.
The feet.
It's a stomp of big.
This is the question that's going to come out of this interview. So Polo Mania, what happens at the end, and when does this end?
Polo Mania lasted for just under a year, I think. But Polo Mania is also notable because this is where I met Ed. Ed is Tiger Mask Red, Eli Buchanan, former guest on the show.
Former guest on the show, yes.
And I don't know, he must have saw something in the Fed because he came in and he clicked right away. He got what the Fed was going for, and he just had this like over the top villain character, and he was just pushing it every week. Like, I wouldn't say he was the best writer in the Fed, but he was very consistent. Like, and I like rewarding people like that. So I think I surprised him with the Scramble title one time. He won it when it was vacant. So
it's nice when you get someone who shows up to every show, who puts in the same effort every time.
Yep.
It's hard to get. And when you get it, you want to keep it.
Absolutely. So we rewarded him with that. And then he ended up getting a shot for the top title. And he won that. So
that's awesome. Ed. Yeah, good on Ed. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Lexi Gold in the chat. Only feats.
Gold.
There you go.
That's Lexi, it. I think that's the answer.
Making some cash.
That is the answer. Only feats. Perfect. All right. No, So you guys last about a year, and then you said this is your last Fed. This is it. This is the last one I'm running. It's going to be ridiculous. I'm going to throw all my ideas out there, and then you ran another one.
Yeah, I started Lions Road.
Glutton for punishment.
Yes.
Because I'm like, well, I find concept Feds have like a small niche audience you reach.
Yes.
And
absolutely, yes.
Pollo Mania had some, like, lots of people praising it, but a lot of people didn't join it. So it was like you had maybe 12 members max at any given time. And that's a struggle.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll try my hand at a serious Fed. Let's do like a normal. And I watched like an episode of NXT, and I liked the product because it was 1 hour. This is 2016.
Okay.
So it was 1 hour. It was a couple of competitive matches and a squash match. Mm-hmm. I said, if I can do a format like that every week, that's manageable. Yep. You do like a good opening match, a good main event, and a couple showcase matches, squashes. And you could probably do something with that format. So I tried it. I was like, well, I need a name. Lions Road. Okay, whatever. We got a name. That's
went
into it.
Went back to the classic.
Yeah, I was like, it's 10 years ago. Nobody's remembering it. So
true that.
But again, it was important because that's how Cutlass found the Fed again. He was in the original, and him and Alexander Irvine, I think, were the only two that were in the original that were in the second.
That's fate.
And as luck would have it, I think it was Irvine that found it at the bottom of a affiliates table on another Fed and showed it to Cutlass. So
just keeps on working itself into repetitive handlers. That's awesome.
So we had those two, and we had the Pollo Mania crew, which was like Ed, Hammerstein, Johnny, who was Matt Pulver. Matt wasn't full time, but he's this hee-ho I'm talking about. He's bouncing around. He comes in, and actually, for Matt to work in that schedule is great because a character like El Hijo de Pollo in a straight Fed doesn't work if he's there every week. Right. But if he can come in, be a mercenary character and wreak havoc and go back out, that has a good shelf life.
Yep. Yeah, attraction.
He's a Abdullah the Butcher or Andre the Giant, but just giant chicken man. No, he wasn't even giant. I think he was a cruiserweight. So
he's the Hurricane.
Yeah. Just
giant chicken tender man.
There you go, chicken tender.
But I'm debating with it. I'm like, how do I feature this character in a serious Fed? It's like, you can't say because his whole gimmick is it's not a mask, he's a chicken. And it's like, well, you use the Jim Cornette approach. Like, we're not going to say he's this. He's going to think he's that. And that's what makes him dangerous.
Yeah.
And also you have him debut not in a box, but in a bucket.
Everybody's instantly over in a bucket. Everyone knows that.
I think he just showed up from the start. I didn't think he got a good debut.
No, just walked out with a chicken head on.
I think he just popped up in a Royal Rumble and bashed somebody with an egg. So that was
he walked out. WOK. Walk.
No, Brian. No.
Too far?
Too far. Not far enough.
You caught me, so that's good.
All right. So we're running Lions Road. It's a more serious Fed. Do you enjoy that take, or do you miss the fun of Pollo Mania?
I mean, I missed the fun, but like I said, the niche wasn't getting the members. So, so Lions Road started, and we had like the Pollo Mania crew. We had the guys from the original. We had some of my other cohorts that I knew come in, and we were, like 30 plus members at one point.
Very
and
strong
it was getting
roster.
A little unmanageable because of like I wanted to keep this kind of low key.
The one time you don't want too many roster members, you get
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's your second show territory, not 3.
I didn't want 2 shows. But we ended up like a pay-per-view card had 8 matches on it. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, man, it gets crazy. It's challenging. And at the time, how many staff members do you have? Are you running the show by yourself, or what's going on?
Pretty much running it by myself. Like if I needed help, I'd ask somebody to help me write a match. But I find just the flow of things, it works better if you're a single guy running the show,
writing it through. Yeah,
because then you don't have to wait on somebody to submit a match or.
Now is it
anybody? But it just works better, I find.
No, it's easy to count on yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know what your schedule is, you know what you can get done, and you're not going to overcommit versus someone you don't know.
Depends on who yourself is.
That's true, Brian.
That's true too.
All right, so where do we go from Lions Road? I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I have some recollection of Lions Road, whether it be a Twitter presence, an internet web presence. Something. I've seen Lions Road out there.
The Lions Road lasted the longest of like any of my feds.
So what was the run?
The run, the first run was because there was a few like startups again and whatever. May 2016 to December 2018.
Wow. Okay.
And then I think revived it in 19 at one point. Lasted a little bit. And then there was LRX, which was September 2020 to May 21.
Okay. So yeah, this has been the last roughly
5 years. Yeah,
5 years. So I've definitely seen it on Twitter. I've definitely seen it around, and that's why when we started talking about the interview and you started mentioning these places, I'm like, well, I'm familiar with this one. I'm familiar with Pollo. I'm familiar with this. It was pretty cool, just finally all of that coming together.
Yeah.
So.
Connecting the dots.
For someone like me, it's cool seeing someone on Twitter and then I'm interviewing them, but I'm not realizing they're connected here and here and here. So it's always fun to see that.
It's the 6-sided ring of. Damn it! I had a pun. I lost it.
You
lost it.
The 6 degrees of the 6-sided ring of
Pollo Mania.
6 sides, but only one angle.
The 6 degrees of separation. That's what I was going for. Now I couldn't get it.
The 6 sides of the chicken bucket. Here we go.
There you go. 6 wings. Let's go.
I'm surprised I didn't try that.
All right, Lions Road. You mentioned 3 different iterations.
At least 3.
At least 3. Are these just different rebrandings, or are they different themes, or what's going on?
Yeah, we just like startups again because I was like, I wanted to start up something after it closed because it kind of closed under me. I wasn't. Well, I'll explain the closure. Is I was moving. I was buying my first house and was having our first kid. So I was like, I'm going to put this fed on hiatus. And then, if you have your first kid, you realize there's not much for me to do in these first couple months because it's all mom and baby.
100%.
And I was like, well, I got all this free time. I can come back and do the fed. And it's like, then you remember all the stress of the fed that you had. And now you have parent stress. You have all that shit. And I was like, I'm not ready for this yet. And it's like, I should probably put this fed to rest for a bit. And I didn't want to leave everybody on like, okay, we might come back, we might not. So I was like, I'm closing it for now. And that's what that was. And then, 3 months later, I'm like, oh, this is easier. And it's like, I kind of wanted to start a fed. And I was like, well, what do I do?
Lions Road.
I've done the same fed for 4 years.
Might as well bring it back.
Yeah. and people joined it, and it wasn't as popular as the first one, but it was just easy to do. It's easy to go back to that well.
Jimmy James again says, no sucking up. Kev's an incredible match writer, especially for managing all of the stuff you were managing, as well as it was better that you wrote everything. I'm sure the continuity, I'm someone, my Fed, I've got 3 different match writers, including myself, and I've got a gang of segment writers, and usually it's the roster. But it's really hard to build continuity between 14 writers.
Yeah.
When you're writing everything, there's got to be so much more continuity, so much more, hey, remember earlier tonight when this happened, than there is in these collaboration feds.
And with a lot of the characters being consistent from like the start of Lions Road through to the end, these guys had stories that like I was familiar with. Like I could recite, oh, these guys wrestled 2 years ago in this match. He won by submission.
And that's the storytelling most E-Feds miss, unless the character is writing themselves almost. It's either one person writing everything or the character has to write themselves. Otherwise, you miss all of that nuance in between.
Yes. And like, I don't mind other people writing, but I can read that match 100 times and I just don't retain the information like I do if I write it myself.
Yeah.
So if somebody writes a show that I'm absent for, it's like I'm just missing a whole boatload of information, I feel. So it was just easier to do it that way, and that's how you remember the continuity.
That's incredible. I'll be honest. As a Fed head, I could not handle the responsibility of writing the entire show back to front. I've never tried, and I never am going to. So sorry, classic wrestling. It's not going to happen.
I had a good format going, I feel like. Because like I said, I limited it to, I think as we expanded, I capped the roster about 20 or 25.
Okay.
And so I would do 5 matches a week. And I think there was like 3 competitive matches and then 2 people could have a squash match or something.
Yep.
So, you space that out. That's not hard to do.
That's not bad at all.
And I'm not writing novels. I'm trying to keep them interesting and competitive. I don't know what my word count was. That's not how I measured it. I just, if I had a satisfying finish, I'm like, here we go. But much to the chagrin of like the roster, I had RP deadlines at like 10 p.m. And I was bitched at a few times, like, why is it not midnight? This is annoying.
Yeah.
But there was a rhyme and reason to it, because you get everything in by 10 p.m., segments, RPs. I can lay out the match or the show before I go to bed. I can figure out, okay, this match is going to go here, this one's here, segment here. And then I go to sleep. I sleep on it, wake up, I'm still thinking about it. Does this make sense? Yeah. Okay, what would I change? And then you go about your day, come back home, get ready to write, and you have everything, locked. You're not second guessing yourself. It was a format I found it worked.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because, the way I do it, I'm in a role play Fed. I judge right away. The role plays come in, deadline hits. I wait till the next morning. I get up, I judge. I wait a day, and then I start match writing. And in that, I'm not sitting there thinking about it over and over and over. I'm just thinking, what kind of finish do I need to come up with, basically? And that's it. And just for my matches, not all of the matches on the card.
And that was it too. Like, if I read all the RPs and went to bed, I'm thinking, okay, this character has this motivation. Like, he's going into with this mindset. Yeah. I've been in a lot of Feds where, like, and especially early on when I was RPing, where I'm writing the character's emotions, and then I read the match, and it's like, did you read my RP? Like,
I don't know. Yeah, the character is not there.
On the arm.
Yeah, I've got a cast on my right leg. There's no limp. There's no nothing.
Here I am, just kicking the shit out of people.
Oh, yeah.
Most incredible transformation.
No, but it's really admirable that you can go about a Fed. You can write the entire thing front to back. You can structure it in a way that you have an agenda. And maybe that's the success to running the Fed, in different iterations over 5 years. You have the same rhythm. You have the same modus operandi. You're going to work the same way every week and get it done.
Yeah, and it helped I structured stuff on my day off too. Like I'm not trying to cram it in with work. So
Yes. Some of us try to write stuff at work and
Hey,
it doesn't always work.
no,
to varying degrees of success.
Yes.
unless it's the night shift and you're texting your buddy ideas.
There you go. Shout out to Matt.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So we get Lions Road in 5 different iterations over the last few years. What comes next, or what is next? What's happened since then?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
I was unhappy with how I closed Lions Road, like I said, so I kept trying to
So
bring
it's
it back.
coming back.
I kept bringing it back, trying to, scratch that itch or whatever. And LRX, I think, did that, the final iteration, because we had a few of the guys that were in there. We had 2 guys you're familiar with, David Troy, David
Yep.
Fox,
Yep.
Seth, who handled Bam Markham, and Jack Mace in LRX.
Seth from Defiance.
Yep. Great guys.
Yeah, no, Seth's incredible. Great handler, incredible match writer. I got nothing but high praise for Seth. Actually got to meet Seth on a work trip one time, so I had a great time hanging out with him, and really, really, really good guy.
The other guy's probably great, but Seth,
Brian says that because Seth does all his work these days.
technically rolling. So no, I can't. Seth is fantastic. Big Seth fan.
I admire him because he can do something I could never do. And that's like get in the head of like all these different characters and give them the different voices, motivation.
1,000
Like, how the
characters.
fuck do you do this?
1,000 characters at a time this guy can write.
I don't know if you've had the chance to ever pop in on any of the deaf radios we've done via the TEFP Twitch stream. He can voice
Of course,
several of his characters. I mean, with different
amazing.
accents and language barriers, like it's astonishing.
I'll have to check it out.
We always joke about Seth being the man of 1,001 characters, but like he really is.
He really is.
All aboard.
This conversation happened earlier in a different Feds chat. I don't want to mention the Fed in case they don't want it mentioned, but I'm not sure how well you know Rob. Also of Defiance fame, handles Mushigahara now, but used to handle one of your Feds apparently.
David Troy, yeah.
Okay, so he says he helped me shape the Fox character, and I'll always be grateful for him to that. And I think Seth responds, same with Jack Mace. That's what I thought I had heard because Justin said he knew him, but I wasn't sure who he handled. So, were you in Defiance wrestling at one point?
No, I was never in Defiance.
No. Okay.
Like I said, I didn't. Beyond my early years, I didn't handle much after that. And like this last 5 years, it's been like 8 years since I got back into Fetting.
It sounds like both of these guys were either in Lions Road or Lions Road X.
Yeah, they were in both.
Okay. So shout out to both Seth and Rob. Handlers in Defiance now. Both handled in Classic and now former handlers of yours.
Yep.
Really cool. Really cool how the small world works, right?
Absolutely. It's
Basically what Mikey's saying in no uncertain terms, he has mine of your sloppy seconds. We had him first, Mike.
All right. Rob did say that in Lions Road X, he was able to turn a dead end character into a world champion, and he was very excited about that. So no, he has nothing but high praise for you, my friend.
I'm nothing but praise for him. He did really well. Like he was in Point Mania even. He was Wild Star D.
Okay.
And I think we had like a 2 deadline setup. So the first deadline you had to RP by. And I think he kept posting after the first deadline, so he kept losing.
That sounds like Rob.
That sounds just like Rob.
But he never complained. And then he disappeared. And
that also sounds like Rob. Never complains.
He disappeared and then showed up in Lions Road like a year and a half into it. And his character was well suited for the promotion. Like good. We were kind of like a MMA pro wrestling hybrid. And he had this great kickboxing Muay Thai background character, so it was perfect. And he started off as a bit of a mid-carder. He was just kind of like a generic face, really.
a real Dolph Ziggler, if you will.
Old wily veteran. And then he was going to pair up with Matt Pulver and James Edwards in a stable. And Edwards left after losing the world title.
As tends to happen.
Yeah.
People lose a world title, they usually
Edwards is
myself included.
Kind of like that, I guess. But he was a very competitive spirit.
Okay.
He'd always come back. So it wasn't terrible that way. And so with that off the table, he's like, I'm going to turn Troy heel. And that was the best thing he could have done because we had a tournament and he just ran through that tournament and he didn't win, but he finished runner up and he got a whole lot of momentum from it. And he ended up winning the title within 3 months of that turn. So
wow,
did very well for himself.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, Rob's currently rocking in Classic now and running a great tag team. So I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and still active in Defiant.
So when you start Sell Up, you'll be active there too. So what's going on next? What are you doing now? Nothing?
With when an LRX kind of just folded, kind of fell off. There was no big cry. It was just kind of with a whimper. And I didn't really have any qualms with it. It was just like, okay, that was a satisfying conclusion. We got to do a lot that we wanted and no sense beating the horse now. Like it was a natural conclusion, it felt like.
Yeah.
And so after that, I had like a few ideas that kind of went nowhere, but I didn't feel bad about that. I was like, okay, well, we'll just come up with something. And if I don't, then I'm good with that too. So This is where I'm at now. I'm like, okay.
Are you still in the EFED world or are you kind of on the outside looking in right now?
Outside looking in.
Okay.
Like, you notice from our Twitter interactions, Ed does most of the work on the Twitter account.
Yeah, I reached out here to Kevin, and what I got back was, "Hey, Kevin doesn't handle this account anymore."
We both handle it, but I don't really look at it unless
he directs you. And that's like an EWTs, let me tell you.
Like I'll pop in every now and then, but
Brian doesn't look until I tell him to.
and even then, sometimes I don't.
No, I totally get that though. So at Polo Road, a mix between Polo Mania and Lions Road, I guess is the handle. Is that the plan?
We tried a bit of it and it didn't really take off. So I was like, go back and think of it again.
So what you're saying is now that you're on the EFED podcast and people are listening, that they should check out at Polo Road for the brand new EFED that you're running.
They can, but I'm not promising anything.
It was worth a shot. It was worth a shot.
If they think my journey here has been interesting, then they might be inclined to think a new Fed would be. So that's worth a shot. Yeah. I'm not promising nothing.
So what is your experience between angle and role play? Is it mostly role play, mostly angle, or what's the deal?
Mostly role play. Like, I find that angle's really popped up in the last few years.
Yeah.
And nothing against it. I haven't really figured out how to be a Fed head for it. Like how to.
Oh, it's so easy.
I don't know. I find like a lot of Feds I see that their guys are just kind of mailing it in.
Some, man.
Yeah, maybe I'm looking at the wrong Feds. Maybe you're
definitely looking at the wrong Feds. Well,
DefiantWrestling.com.
Let me tell you this: what do you look for in a role play then, as a role play Fed head? What are you looking for in a winner?
Do you want to be on? I'll be completely honest with you. I hated judging as a Fed head.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I didn't read every Fed or every RP because I did, but I had guys to do like judging and say like, back me up. What do you think a match? And they'd give me a result. And if I disagreed with it, then I would like overturn it. But most of the time I was just reading RPs and like, okay, I like this one better. But then people would ask me for feedback and I'm like, God, I'm not an English teacher. I don't know.
That's me. That's where I'm at exactly right now. I'm like, people are like, all right, give me feedback. What do you think I should do better? And I'm like, be more entertaining than the guy you're facing. I don't know.
Because I would give honest feedback and they'd fight me on it. And I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard giving feedback.
I understand it's a competitive thing and you want to win, but if you're not going to accept the feedback, then I can't do much for you.
Yep.
All I can say, man, just angle feds. Come to the dark side.
Well, good deal. Kev, before we let you go, we're going to hit these Twitter and Discord questions. Are you ready for these?
Let's do it.
Okay, no reading along as we spoke about.
All right.
I'm watching.
My eyes are up here.
All right. Eyes up here. Okay. In the original Lions Road run, which character would you say was your favorite? This is from @WeROSDub on Twitter.
I would say Johnny's Matt Pulver, because he was like the perfect baby face. He started off as like kind of a rookie character, and he found his edge through the Fed. He stayed from the beginning to the end, and it's the finals of the first tournament, lost, and he's pulled himself back up. And then he gets in a feud with the veteran, and he learns killer thing. He comes back. He takes the champion to a draw. Okay, well, what do I got to do now? And it's like he just had that continuous fire, even in his role plays. Like, you rooted for this guy to win, and eventually he did. He beat his longtime friend, rival, to win the title, and then lost it to David Troy. So there's something to it. The veteran knew how to crack the young guy.
I guess. Definitely. His next question is, you're a creative guy. Pollo and Lions Road were great ideas. Any new concepts planned for the future?
Well, we keep going back to David Troy. David Troy is the one that made me decide on the Pollo Road name. Now, I haven't really done anything with it. I started a Fed with it and then kind of backpedaled when it didn't go anywhere. So something Pollo Road, if I do a Fed, it's going to be Pollo Road, because it's a great name, and I can use all the road puns we had for event names.
I'm ready for it. Up next is @TigerMaskRed.
Shout out to Ed.
You and I have created a lot of crazy ideas together, especially in Pollo Mania. Okay, they were mostly yours. What's a few ideas that you came up with that you thought, nope, that's too crazy?
I don't think I did, because, like I told you, the Parts Unknown title was mostly my idea, and
That's way out there, right?
that's out there. That's what I was saying. I'm like, anything that can come to mind, I'm gonna do. We had is that in the chat? I don't remember what the Gravy to Live was the name of the match.
Gravy to live, like buried
Gravy to-
alive, but with gravy.
Yes, but you had to dunk your opponent in a pot of gravy.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. @TigerMaskRed has a second question. How tempted were you to dump all of Pedro's Pollo Mania characters in a giant vat of boiling grease following some of the DM conversations you had with him?
So you guys are fat heads. You know, there's got to be one guy that has bugged you to no end.
To no end.
Pedro's a nice guy. I'm not gonna say that, because outside he did some judging for me. I think he might have wrote a match or two, but he's good that way. But when it involved his character, dear God, he complained in the scramble match that his character took a fall, and I was like, this is the whole concept of the scramble match. You didn't win the match. But
Amazing. Yeah, we all have that guy.
Yeah, he was just. It got to the point where he was in the world title match, and he had bugged me so much. I said, "Win or lose, you're done." And I wasn't going to take it away from him. If he won, I would vacate the belt. But I was like, I can't do this, man. You're driving me insane.
And here's the thing, though. Like, they're good because they care too much, right? They're going to
Yes.
show up. They're going to role play. They're going to produce. But on the flip side, you can't appease everybody. Your style is not everybody's style.
Yeah, like, I wanted to put him in feuds. He didn't want to feud with this guy. He didn't want to look weak. And I'm like, you're a heel. You got to show your ass. Like,
But I'm a cool badass heel, man. You don't understand.
he wasn't even a cool badass. He was an emo kid. Like, you're going to look weak. You're fighting dudes bigger than you.
Did he ever ask to end the show with a pile of bodies?
I don't remember.
Been there.
Pile of bodies. All right. At David Troy ODT, say nice things about David Troy / Fox, please.
I think we're covered, aren't we?
We are covered. He covered it pretty well so far. So that's the questions we got on the Twitter machine. Let's see. I had Rob also posted. I'm looking forward to this because I had the privilege of working with Kevin on a lot of projects, and I can't wait for Mikey to pick his brain and have some interesting chats. Shout out to Rob, fun handler for everybody on this call.
Yeah, it's very humbling to read that. Thank you.
Cool
Yeah,
stuff.
shout out to Rob. Dolphin Ziggler's the best.
For those of you who don't know, Rob absolutely despises the man. All right, up on the Discord, we got Meg up first. As always, 5BW. What's the best advice you can give an up and coming starting e-fedder?
That's a good question. It's been so damn long. I think I'd say like read everybody's art piece. Like you may have a style that's comfortable with for you at the beginning, but if you read other people's RPs, you might see a different writing style that you can maybe not copy, but it might work better for you.
Yeah.
And certainly you can draw inspiration from different people because there's all kinds of characters in your feds and everybody writes differently. So there's lots to take away. So just get yourself out there, read everything. Try and do some match writing. Maybe that's your forte. Or, offer to help.
It's interesting you say that. I didn't write a match until I was probably in the game for 12 years.
Jeez.
And I didn't like it at first. I hated it. But once I got used to it, I found that I enjoy telling the story almost as much through the match as I do through segments or role play or whatever.
It's challenging. Like I read the matches I did when I first started, and there's no structure.
None.
There's nothing, no psychology.
Super kick. All right.
And I read them now, and it's like there's like all Japan worthy structure to it. Like, like what am I doing here now?
So another question from Meg: was there chickens in Pollo Mania?
We filled our quota.
They filled their quota.
Now we're there. Was there?
Was there?
Shout out to Meg and
Many chickens were harmed too with the eggs. There was a midget chicken. We forgot popcorn pollo.
Popcorn
Shit.
pollo.
We smashed the egg
a
open and
popcorn chicken. I see.
Popcorn pollo came in.
Popcorn pollo. I'm dying. All right. What's the worst thing that you've seen in your time in e-fetting?
In HWL, January 2005, we had a guy sign up as the retard killer.
Whoa.
That's pretty out there.
That's way out there, bro.
That's probably I didn't
Too far.
I didn't run into a lot of like racial or other bullshit like that, but
That's crazy.
that guy took the cake, I think.
Oh man. That's a good answer to the question. Shout out to Meg for the question. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg.
Over to I got a DM on the Twitter machine from a Matt Jejna.
That's
And
El Hijo de Pollo.
There you go. It's the man. He says he doesn't role play anymore. He doesn't e-fed anymore, but he had some questions for you.
Let's hit him.
Describe your favorite storyline or feud that you oversaw or participated in.
There's been so many. I suck at favorites, but I think we'll go with recent bias because I can remember it. AJ Knight and Matt Pulver had like a frenemies thing going on. They were teammates, and then AJ started acting like a dick. And AJ shows up when James Edwards and Pulver had been teaming, and
Okay.
Edwards won the world title. And I don't know if you guys are MMA fans, but you remember Jason Mayhem Miller showing up on a Strikeforce show and saying, "Hey, when's my title shot?" Well, that's what AJ did to Edwards. Then Pulver, who's this laid back dude, punched him in the face. And so that blew it off, and they had like not a heated feud, but AJ
something that you were really into.
Yeah, AJ won the title from Edwards, and then Pulver won it from AJ. So it was good little karma that way. Like he got revenge, and
That's a good storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Even in a role play scenario.
that's it's amazing how it worked out competitive wise.
Right. What has changed since you first started e-fetting to now?
Well, we're not writing novels,
Thank goodness.
thank God.
I would not be a fed head if that were the case.
Yeah, when I came back in 15, I noticed people were calling things microfeds. I'm like, what's that?
Yep.
And they're like 500 words. Like, that's perfect. I love that. Let's do it. I wasn't RPing, but I was like, that's a joy to read. I don't want to read 3,000 words.
Amen.
And and honestly, who wants to watch? If this was real life, who wants to watch a promo?
Yeah.
We did in the Attitude Era.
Listen, what we're gonna do.
This very ring.
This guy gets it. All right, question 3 from Matt. Did you create any novel new match types during your stint as a Fed head?
I don't think so. I think everything I created was kind of like based off something that already existed.
No bucket of death?
Well, the Gravy to Live, I guess, would be the
Gravy to Live. That's
Gravy to Live is pretty unique.
That's going to be the subtitle for the show.
We had the Pollo Playhouse, which was war games, but there was this random Fed in Mexico that I found that had like your traditional ring, but then they had a higher ring for like lucha dives, I guess. And I was like, let's put that in a cage. That's perfect.
Interesting.
So we had that. I have a picture of it somewhere. So
I want to see it. Yeah.
If that exists in real life, it legit should be put in a cage, like locked up, like shoved away.
Locked away.
I'll put it in our chat here after if I find it.
Perfect.
It needs to be moved to that Indiana Jones archaeological warehouse.
At Cat Passidy's next. This is our good friend Joe. Brian, do you have anything to say before we get started?
You're fired.
All right, he's fired. All right, Joe wants to know, if you were my Fed head, would you fire me?
Well, we just saw one fire him, so what's he going to do to get fired?
Just
everything.
Be himself.
Every time he opens his mouth.
All right, we'll hire him just to fire him.
Amen. There we go. All right, Joe's fired.
Team
1-day contract.
Can we all do it at the same time? Can we all do it at the same time and just say, Joe, you're fired in 3, 2, 1. Joe, you're fired. Perfect. All right. Highlander 4H is up next. That's Ron Hall McDonald, for those who don't know. He wants to know, what's your favorite match you were ever in?
I guess whichever Fed I won a world title in. I don't know. Actually, no, I'll change my answer. I did a match on the 2nd anniversary Lions Road show against Cutlass, Julian Cutlass, just because I wanted to face him. Like, it was not a competitive. Well, even if it was competitive, I would have got my ass kicked. So, but I just wanted to write a match between his character and my character, and it was a lot of fun. So I'll say that.
It's cool to get a long-time handler and get to mix it up, right?
Yeah.
Well, for those keeping count at home, it's a Fed head who doesn't want to give himself the title. It's a Fed head who his favorite match is getting his ass kicked. Like, if the man starts something.
That's right. Those are solid signs. There's no red flags from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, 100%.
Someone you wanted to feud with but never got a chance.
I don't know. It comes down to, like, I don't want to be the focus. So I'd
Once
rather.
again, people.
I'm the guy behind the scenes. I want to make the matches.
That's right. Let me write the match.
Yeah, I'll write a good match. Just give me some characters.
All right. Well, what advice do you have to someone new in the hobby? I think you already gave that with Meg's question.
I answered that, I guess.
Thanks, Ron, for not reading before you asked.
Fucking way to go, Ron.
Ron's a very, very
Actually,
often listener.
I do have another.
All right. More advice.
Leave feedback.
There you go.
You got fed heads that want feedback, and not enough people leave feedback in this hobby.
If you want to move up in a Fed, leave feedback.
100%.
There you go.
All right, got that out of the way. Hi, Paul from Defiance
Paul.
Radio wants to know, what's your biggest regret in the hobby?
Maybe putting the title on myself. I don't know, because that started off like I don't regret it in that sense, because like my intentions were pure, but just the shitstorm it created.
And you learned, right?
Yeah, you learn from it, so it wasn't bad that way. But yeah, I'd probably say that.
Alex Smiley wants to know, sponsor of the show. Shout out to Alex, OccupyProWrestling.com.
Putting the smart back into smart marks.
Putting the schmurmer. Alex wants to know, this seems like the perfect time to ask the question, why did the chicken cross the road?
To get to the Poyo bucket.
The man is on point.
I mean, come on, Alex. It's easy.
Easy money.
Easy greasy.
Kevin R wants to know, what's an EFED story you always like to tell but never got a chance to?
In HWL, this dude named Owen Masters. I don't know if anybody knows him. I've never seen him since.
Okay.
He came into the Fed and he basically just started shit. And I wasn't around that day. And the whole Fed just came together and just like collectively threw him on his ass. It was great. And I came home and like, what's going on here?
You missed the whole ousting.
Yeah. And another.
He quit before you could fire him.
My computer blew up in HWL.
Okay.
And it was on a weekend. And, this is 04, so I didn't have a cell phone. And I'm not close to a library. I wasn't at school. So I had no way to tell anybody, like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do the results.
Oh.
They came together and they wrote the show. And they booked like 2 weeks for me until I got back. I was like, you couldn't ask for a better crew.
That's awesome. Yeah, no doubt.
Once again, folks, anyone who can muster that response from a group of, let's be honest, degenerate EFED handlers, come on. If you start something up, be on the lookout. That like Mikey said, no red flags.
No red flags. All right.
Unless you're just really afraid of chicken.
Unless you're really afraid of chickens or a good time. Seth wants to know, Seth is Burns, what's your favorite handlers to work with? He wants you to mention his name.
Yeah.
I already mentioned Seth, didn't I?
He did indeed.
Seth was great. Seth brought in a character just for a tag team tournament we were doing, Jonah Kiala. And like this dude was the best baby goodbye. I loved it. He's just a little shit kicker and great. David Troy, Matt Pulver, Ed, Eli Buchanan, Hammerstein. Hammerstein doesn't get enough love in this game. He was one of the nicest dudes. I don't know what he's doing right now. Whatever he's doing, I hope he's happy.
He once owned a ballroom, right?
Maybe that's what he's doing. He's raking in his cash.
Brian.
But yeah, Hammer's like the nicest dude in e-fetting, and Ed will agree. I miss him. He was the heart of the Fed.
What about your favorite characters in Poyo Mania, Lions Road, and Lions Road X?
Well, since Seth answered the question, we'll get him out of the way. Bam Markham was good. Jack Mace, David Troy, Matt Pulver, Eli Buchanan, Tiger Masquerade, Hammer, Julian Cutlass, AJ Knight, James Edwards.
Yeah,
James Edwards was good, even if he'd quit after losing the belt. I feel like I'm missing people. Obviously, I am, but
it's tough when you're on the spot, right?
Yeah.
MDG Warren wants to know, tell me one in-character story from an EFED that you'd rather forget. We all have one.
In character?
Yeah, so some story that you were involved in that you regret, other than winning the world title. Tough, right?
or maybe just one you read.
There you go, in your Feds.
If you want to name names.
In one of my Feds. I'm drawing a blank, man. Like, I'm not trying to paint this picture that it was rosy, but
another non-red flag, guys. No. That's gonna be the new bit here on the EFED podcast. No red flags. And then you're gonna murder someone and we're gonna be in trouble. All right. Sorry.
We've been there.
We'll cut that off the show. All right. Up next is at hashtag is your mom hot. Question number one.
I can see where this is going.
Is your mom hot?
No comment.
No comment on question one. Question two, is she single?
No.
No. Okay. Sorry, Rick struck out. Question three, in a Fed head role, what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of the hobby? Good question. After
Dealing
the
with the handlers. Dealing with the handlers.
Yes.
Especially
Because
handlers like Rick.
not everybody's
Rob.
created equal. There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good ones, and there's a lot of pain in the ass. But
Yeah.
you know, the pain in the ass, sometimes you just got to weed through it, and they open up a bit. But that was most of it. I think it was just it would be stressful just coming home to a DM from somebody bitching about something minor.
Yeah. You already got stuff going on in life, and
My
now
character doesn't tap out. Like, who fucking cares, buddy?
he does now.
He just did.
And that's
I read it.
like what I said about Lions Road. It was very pro wrestling and MMA. So everybody's tapping out. We normalized knockouts. Like we replaced countouts with knockouts. Dudes would get rocked and fall out of the ring, and they'd get knocked out, counted out.
It's not a sign of weakness. It's just
No.
one of the ways to lose.
It's self-preservation.
Exactly. If you want to work the next show, you're tapping out.
Yeah.
So his next question is angle or RP, and what's your preference and why? We know it's role play, but why?
I wouldn't even say it's my preference. I'm just not familiar with Angle like enough to.
Yeah.
But competitive wise, I think I like it just because there's a randomness factor.
There
Like-
certainly is. Yeah.
For Angle, you can lay out a best plan, but
There's
Yeah,
rarely that big gotcha moment in an angle. I mean, obviously you got debuts and you've got this and that, but you rarely have like a random world champion switch. Like,
but
boom.
something like let's go back to David Troy. Like he turned heel, and if it was an Angle fed, who would have thought that he'd catch fire like he did?
Yeah.
Like that sparked his writing, and so in competitive, you could kind of, let's not say control your narrative because God knows.
Those are not good keywords these days. Yeah.
No super kicks.
But you can certainly, steer your destiny a little better, maybe.
Yeah.
For right or wrong, and maybe you can do that in angle fits too. I'm not familiar. Like I'm not going to speak on that, but that's my perception of it so far. Is I just like you can approach it that way and not have a clear winner or loser until the match is done or the RPs are done, I guess.
Right. Until it comes down to you versus you.
Yeah.
His next question, a little bit more serious. When it comes to chicken nuggies, what's your favorite brand and what do you dip your nuggets in? Your nuggies in?
I don't remember the last time I've eaten chicken nuggets.
He just knows he knows we're about to eat some fucking hot sauce on this show.
Once again, folks, another not red flag. The man's not eating chicken nuggets on a regular basis.
We'll pin Pollo Bucket, even though it's fictional.
Hey,
Pollo bucket. There's your
that's a
favorite
good
brand.
answer. Yeah.
And what do you dip it in? Pollo bucket sauce?
The Pollo sauce, yeah. Whatever the hell's in that.
Chicken. All right. Question 6. Teddy Davis versus Super Pollo in a tar and feather match. Who goes over? Give us a finish.
I think I'm admitting this for the first time in an out of character interview that they're the same person.
Oh,
exclusive.
This is something I kind of struggled with, and I never really conclusively made, but I was like, is he a Mexican dude or is he just a dude in a mask? And I had the same conversation with Matt. He never gave me a direct answer what Hijo was. If he was just an American portraying this stupid lucha gimmick, or he was just a Mexican.
The El Generico of E.
Yeah.
Fighting, right? Yeah.
Well, even beyond that, spray on tan will take you far.
Taking cultural appropriation to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, if you go steal the mask, steal.
There you go.
All right. Finally, Brian wants to know over and under on how many characters Seth has handled. Best guess.
50 at least.
I mean,
That's
I think
gotta be the under.
that's got to be the under, but it might be a more accurate number than we portray.
Yeah, but 1,001's more fun.
Yeah, right.
There you go. I think I know of at least 5. So
Oh, dude, he's got 20 active in Defiance right now.
god damn,
He's insane.
I commend him for being able to do that.
All right, Kevin, before we let you go, is there anything else you want to plug, promote, put over, or tag here on the EFED podcast?
Well, you got my Twitter at Poyo Road. That's if anything pops off. I do YouTube every once in a while at Most Falls to Curfew. There's nothing special on that channel, but a couple music videos and some love letter to British wrestling.
There you go.
We'll shout out Cutlass's music. He's a good instrumentalist. D Montrose Music at Twitter, or Duke Montrose on Spotify and whatever else you listen to music on. And shout out to Ed, Eli Flintock on Twitter. He's a great guy too.
That's awesome, man. Hey,
that's all.
Appreciate that. And if you guys ever get anything popping off again at Poyo Road or whatever you plan on doing, let us know. We'll promote it. We'll plug it here on the show. We'll bring you back for a spotlight, whatever we got to do.
All right.
But
Sounds good to me.
Kevin, I appreciate you jumping on the show today. This has been a good time.
It has been. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, back to me and Brian. I want to give a shout out to Kevin for coming on the show. I had a blast talking to him. Really good time. This is going to wrap up the EFED podcast, episode 91.
91!
We had a great time. Give a shout out, give a check out to our sponsors. Check out OccupyProWrestling.com. Check out their Discord. Check out their YouTube channel. Check out EWTs.com. Check out, what else we got, Brian?
The things you heard early in the episode.
That's right. Check out the Patreon. Check out patreon.com/EFED podcast. Check out the twitch.tv/the EFED podcast. We'd appreciate any follows, subscriptions on there, as well as the YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/the EFED podcast. Hit that follow button, subscribe button, the little heart, the bell, whatever it is over there. That'll let you know what we're doing, when we're doing it, and why we're doing it.
Check out the Discord. The Discord is a melting pot of the EFED community with a huge following. A lot of good stuff going on there as well.
That's right. And you can find that link on our Twitter. Otherwise, guys, this has been the EFED podcast, episode 91. Had a great time. Hope you enjoyed it. Please catch us on YouTube, catch us on Twitch, catch us on Spotify, Apple, Google, and hit that review button. Give us 5 stars wherever you're at, and it'll help us out a little bit as well. Otherwise, for Brian, I'm Mikey. This has been the EFED podcast, episode 91, where the wrestling is written, but the characters are real.
You've been listening to the EFED podcast, only on the Atomic Jobcast Network, presented commercial-free on Patreon.com.
Panera. Brian, if you're listening to this, you're the best. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. No matter what Mikey says, you're the best. The whole show works because of you.
I quit all feds or something like. I like the EFED podcast. 2 idiots